The Last of Us, Season 1, Episode 1, titled When You're Lost in the Darkness, Look into the Light. I mean, technically the episode is called When You're Lost in the Darkness, but I'm just too much like a fanboy saying the words to complete the whole thing. But, of course, this is the beginning of the brand new HBO show based on the very popular video game of the same name, which is an understatement. Which is a very understatement how popular it is, with some awards attached to it, which is, once again, understatement. Credible performances, which is an understatement. Everything I say, anytime you say, with awesome performances, and great this, and great that, and when it comes to Last of Us, you have to keep saying that's an understatement. And when they announced it back in 2020, it was like, the second game was around the corner, and but they announced, hey, we're doing a HBO show of The Last of Us. What my reaction was, oh, it's HBO, it's done by the guy who did Chernobyl, Craig Nathan, and Neil Druckmann is also there, who is the director of the two games, because it's motion capture, so you need someone to direct, and he also written it and all that. So you have a guy who did Chernobyl, won a lot of awards, the guy who also did, and also got the other guy who worked on the games that have won a lot of narrative awards, and knowing that this is a game that's also known for being the Citizen Kane of video game storytelling, it's weird to say Godfather or Citizen Kane or Lords of Arabia, knowing it's still with fungus zombies, and it's, we're dealing with fungus zombies and a global zombie pandemic. It's weird. It's weird to say Citizen Kane video games, but this was the game that made people go, holy shit, you can do that in a game, which kind of led to the story of God of War, God of War 2018, and the leading up to something like Spider-Man PS4, and it's what do you call it, like a 1.5, the sequel for the sequels, Miles Morales, and it kind of picked out a lot of people's game where we can kind of treat it, we can do, in a way, try and make it feel like movies, try and make it an interactive movie and make you be invested of caring about the characters, and then just having the characters being there to just go to point A to point B, and that's kind of it. But watching this first episode, and I am a fan. How many video game edits have I done? 4? Because I did part 1. When I did the remastered. I did part 1 when it came out in September. Basically a remake of the game, ground up, so it could look like it's like 8 year of sequel that came out later, so it looked like part 2, and also did Left Behind. So it's safe to say, bit of a fan of The Last of Us, and the story and the characters and the performances. So it's very interesting to talk about the series, knowing that it's going to be an adaptation. There's going to be differences. There's going to be there's going to be differences because it's different mediums and things need to change and all that type of stuff. But it was kind of, while leading into watching the episode and also doing this recording, I was kind of like, how do I talk about this show? Because I know how the Titanic sinks. And I know there's going to be a bunch of people who have never played the game, or just non-gamers or whatever have you. Maybe it's just on your playlist and you just haven't got around to it. How do I talk about without... there's not much speculation where you already know that know what the speculations are. So it was like, how do I talk about it? Do I go full spoilers, or do I just try to hide it as much as I can? For me personally, I think the best way to do it is trying to hide it as much as I can, because I do want people to comment and have speculations and have talks and have these type of talk about those moments that, what I used to say, the comments will be spoilery, and that's when look down in the comments, pre-warned, but me talking about it, in the week of the episode. I'm just not going to be talking about it because I want people who don't know the story, don't know the games, and just experiencing the story as it is in that format. And yeah, it'll be kind of fun with differences and all kind of stuff. Definitely nearly at the end when we find out that there's a character named Wobbit, and he's in the game you're meant to just go for a massive shootout and beat up a lot of people and just get to him, and you realize probably in narrative format it doesn't make a lot of sense, and in gameplay, and the reason it was there just so the gamers and so the gamers and the player is able to know what to do in the combat side of things, and that's only the reason it's there. So naturally they change how things went from there, and kind of combined a couple of scenes that were separate in the game. But anyway, so what I thought of the episode as a whole, I will say this. I think there's some really, really good, and this is how it sounded like, he didn't like it. I really did like it. I thought it was a really good first episode, right? I think what took me out of the loop a little bit is that where they put the title sequence. Because I think the title sequence really would help. They put the title sequence nearly at the beginning, like 3 minutes in, as they normally would. But I wish they kind of did a Good Omens thing, where it was like 20 minutes and boom! Here's the title sequence. The opening credits. Because knowing that we begin in 2003 and we see a world where it isn't the affected, the fungus zombie apocalypse hasn't happened yet. And we see the relationship between Joel and Sarah, his daughter, which I would not spoil, of it. And you see their bond, you see their the bond and their relationship, how much they care about each other, how much like kind of the type of parent relationship where it doesn't feel, they feel like they're just friends, they're not parent and child. It feels like they just like they're roommates and not parent and child, if that makes sense, that kind of dynamic. And I really like it, and also knowing that in the game there's only one scene before everything goes to shit, and then everything goes to shit. It's kind of nice to see what does the world look like, what are the characters like on this, and knowing that we're mostly focused on Sarah in the first 30 minutes of the episode, I was like really riveted out through it, and when the outbreak happens. It is really well put together. It is really like just, and I think it is literally 15 minutes. I think the outbreak thing is like 10 minutes or 15. Like it's the same length of the game of when that happened. But with those events happening, and yes, they do dialogue lines and you realize that. Here's the weird thing. I realize that it took 15 minutes before the game started, if that makes sense. If you know how you like read a book and maybe like you've seen the movie or TV show, and it's like the first 20 minutes is like a prequel to the book, in a way, before the book starts. It's kind of like the first it's like the first 15 minutes is when it's a scene between Sarah and Joel watching a movie of sitting on a couch, and that at night. That is how it starts. And I was like, knowing all, and I was like, I kind of like this. Get more character development, get us more of the world, and see the maybe hints and whispers, and if you know what's happening, you know what's happening, but give people a sense of like, oh, what's this? This is a bit weird. Like, what's wrong with this person? Or why that person freaking out? I really did enjoy that. But when the outbreak happened, there's pieces of dialogue that's quite similar. they do try to do some shots that are literally. I thought they might have to do a one with it, but but when the outbreak happens, I was with it. It was, that's, yes, there's differences. It's a plane that knocks them out. It's not a car. It's not a car. But it's I was like really invested and felt really drawn to the characters out through those 15 minutes, and when the event happens, which is for a lot of people and everybody, let's say this, for non people who, okay, let's say this, for non people who know, okay, people who don't know the story, all I would say is welcome. Before the time jump to 20 years, which I would say between the time jumps, I think the title sequence should be there. I think that title sequence kind of helps to ease people into the timeline, then just like 20 years later, boom, here you go, and you go, whoa, what's going on? So that's why I think it would be better to have the title sequence like halfway through the episode versus like 3 minutes in. But when those moments happen, non-gamers, welcome. Gamers, we were all like, oh shit, here I go again. And it was cry time. Every bloody time when it happens, I just go a bit like, oh god, again. Oh, why? Why am I like this? Why are we doing this? I'm just soaking constantly out through the entire moment, and I'm like, every time the feels happen, all that. But when we hit the 20 minutes, when we hit the 20-year later mark, it is when we are having more sense of world building, more sense of the characters, maybe filling some scenes or moments that characters mentioned in the game, but they just gonna show what actually happened. Did certain moments happen? Did they not? Have a sense of what Joel's role in this apocalyptic world is, more brass in it. We meet Ellie, who is our second main character in the series, and if you've seen the clips, she's locked up, she's chained, and we don't know why. Well, I know why, but but the audience doesn't know why, and it's and you're like, for me, I'm like, that's Ellie. Ellie being Bella Ramsey as Ellie is like, I know she doesn't look like the character. Who gives a shit? But she sounds like the character. She acts like the character. And it probably does help that, when she's saying 3, 8, 9, fuck you. Like, knowing the 14-year-old Ellie has a potty mouth. I mean, to be fair, let's be honest. 18-year-old Ellie from part 2 has a potty mouth as well. But she is just like, how do you say it? Like, brass, very, like, she's a 14-year-old, but it's very, like, but still no shit nonsense out. But, we meet Tess, who is Joel's partner in the apocalypse. We have, Aria, who is actually played by the same actress from the game, so that's a cool thing happens. There's only one person who can play this character. It's the same person, and it's just it's literally world building. The first half is like characters and understanding Joel's loss and Joel's hurtful and his pain, understanding his pain. And then the second half is all about world building, about the affected, and what type of world Boston is, and what's getting run by the government, and what isn't. And it's really well put together. And scenes don't play the same as it is, as I mentioned, with the whole Robert scene. They combine bumping into Robert and Joel meeting Ellie in the same scene. Which kind of makes sense because once again, I felt like that scene was just there so the players knew how to use combat. Having the army of guys that you have to shoot and all that in the game. But yeah, this is really well put together, really well written. You can kind of tell this also might be a very slow paced type of show if in some moments that it will be when it's like when we meet the affected, it will be fast. It will be somatic and invested and make us have the sense of fear and dread. Won't be afraid to just take its time and be with the characters, and that's what is important. Sorry, I just coughed. Oh god. Oh, this is what happens when you start babbling along for like 20 minutes. But anyway, that's my thoughts of the first episode. Comment below. What do you think of the season premiere of The Last of Us show?